Yo. What's up, everybody? My name is Landon Medina with Connections Cheyenne, and I am here with Mr. Boyd Wrede, who that's how you say your last name?
Correct. Germans couldn't spell.
Okay. Neither can I. So, and he is going to be our first candidate here that we're going to interview that's running for Laramie County Sheriff. We got my man Dominic behind the camera here who's going to help out on everything. So thank you so much for coming in. I just want to give a big thank you to the people of Cheyenne for making this possible. I've always said that we're real blessed because, like, when I reach out to someone, they're just like, "Oh yeah, no problem."
Get a response.
Like, yeah. So everybody, thank you guys for tuning in, and we're going to just have a free, open conversation with Mr. Boyd Wrede here. So, can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, like how long you lived in Wyoming? And
all right. My name's Boyd Wrede. I'm fifth generation here in Laramie County. My family homesteaded in the 1860s down around Carpenter. Another part homesteaded up around Torrington and about the turn of the century.
Dang.
Anyway.
Are you guys still on the original homestead?
No. No, the homestead in Carpenter, I think, was lost in the 50s or 60s.
Okay.
So, I've never been to it.
Okay.
But anyway, and the one up in Torrington was lost in the Depression.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. Everybody was losing money then.
Everybody lost during the Depression.
During the Depression. So, and then from Torrington, my family went to Scottsbluff and did construction and stuff in Scottsbluff.
Okay.
So, anyway.
You're born here in
I was
Cheyenne?
born and raised here in Cheyenne. My wife and I were both born and raised here.
Nice.
My wife and I have been married, just turned 30 years this year.
Congratulations.
We have 2 adult children. Got a 24-year-old son that's a farrier. A 21-year-old daughter that's trying to start a taxidermy business here in town. A lot of my family still lives here.
Nice.
My dad's still here. So anyway.
You guys have family get-togethers and stuff?
We do.
That's really cool.
Family's big for us. As soon as I'm done here, I got to go out to Dad's and help him with some stuff. But anyway.
Nice. Yeah. That's so cool. I wish I had that for sure.
So about my law enforcement background, I was 21 years with the Cheyenne Police Department.
Okay.
I was 18 years on the bomb squad. 8 of that was bomb squad commander. I was 19 years on the mounted unit. Probably 15 of that I was in charge of the training, and then moved on into being in charge of the whole unit. Worked with just about every federal agency, investigating cases on explosives, and worked in Denver with Denver PD on horseback during the DNC in 2008.
I bet that was a cool experience, huh?
It was an experience. It was. I think we did 96 hours on horseback in 5 days or something like that.
Oh, dang.
So we were tired, and it was a long week.
I bet. Holy smokes.
Had the opportunity in 2009 go to Ottawa, Canada, and train with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
How long were you up there for?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Went to a school for 2 weeks up in Ottawa, Canada.
Probably pretty cool, huh?
It was interesting, and Canadians were very nice to us. They were very nice to us. Learned a lot, had fun.
Yep.
Was 4 years in detectives. During my time in detectives, I was also sworn in as a special deputy with the U.S. Marshal and put on Fugitive Task Force.
Oh, wow.
Where we went out and were serving warrants and stuff like that.
Is that kind of when you're driving up to someone's house to give them
to arrest on a warrant?
It can be.
Depends. It can be. It depends on what kind of warrant it is. Whether or not it's a felony, violent felony, or
do they tell you exact details when you're going in there?
Know what the warrant's on.
Okay.
It could be a warrant for a homicide suspect or a warrant for a felony larceny or something. So you have an idea of what kind of person you're going up to. I mean, you don't have their criminal history there, but
Right.
you know what the warrant's for.
Right. I didn't. Little side story here. One time I just put off paying my ticket for my dog at large, and I came down. We lived up in Casper. I came down to work for Cheyenne for the week, and I get home. And like 20 minutes after I got home, they showed up and arrested me on that warrant. They were super nice about it and everything, but yeah. So just I've been on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, they issued the warrant, add about $250 to the fine, and
Yep.
So, but anyway, did executive protection with on the bomb squad with Secret Service multiple times whenever Cheney was in town or in Southeast Wyoming.
Okay.
We were over in Laramie a few times and Cheyenne, but anyway.
Now, do they have that for like every member in that elected position?
They do. Secret Service, anytime Secret Service came to Cheyenne, we were doing executive protection.
Nice. Okay.
So it didn't matter whether or not it was
who it was.
If it was a Secret Service detail, we were doing searches for explosives. I worked a lot with the FBI when I went to bomb school right after 9/11. Was attached to the FBI, answered to the FBI on the bomb squad. Worked several cases with ATF.
Okay.
Testified in federal court on one case. A guy threw a hand grenade at Cowboy Dodge.
Whoa.
Yeah, we went and took care of that. And then 5 years later, we're testifying in federal court in Casper over it.
Where do you even get a hand grenade?
You can buy them.
Oh, no way.
You can buy them at different places, pawn shops or something. They'll have hand grenades that are demilled.
Okay.
But he put a cap in the bottom and filled it back up and rode up to the salesman and threw it and said special delivery.
Whoa.
So
was anyone hurt?
No.
Okay.
No, it didn't function. It was loaded, but it didn't work. It didn't function the way it was designed.
Oh, okay.
So until we countercharged it. And so, yeah.
That's kind of intense because I know, like, growing up when you'd light a firecracker and it didn't go off, you're real careful going up to it.
Yeah. Well, and it was a World War II Japanese hand grenade.
Okay.
So a little more powder than a firecracker.
Yeah. A little different.
A little bit different. Anyway, I worked with just about every federal agency. Trained with the military on the bomb squad and stuff like that. Nice. So I was in detectives. Handled everything in detectives. Mainly I was doing property crimes, but I did have my very first case was a child homicide.
Oh my God.
Handled a couple sex assaults. So I've got a background in investigations. Did it for just under 4 years until I was promoted out of detectives, and I went back to the street as a patrol sergeant.
Nice.
So
you have a very overall knowledge about a lot of aspects of
I've got a very diverse background. There's very few jobs in the police department that I didn't do.
Okay.
Bomb squad, being on bomb squad, there was times where we'd go out with SWAT team.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that. Being in detectives, I think I'm the only Republican candidate that was ever in detectives.
Okay.
And I spent majority of my time learning how to do my job to be a cop.
Right.
And officer safety is very important to me, and it's a big priority. And if elected to sheriff, I will make that a huge priority for that entire department.
Is that one of the reasons that you decided to run?
It is. There's, being in the bomb squad and the mounted unit, those are two joint units between the police department and the sheriff's department.
Okay.
And through working those two units with the deputies and stuff, I saw some things that I thought could have been better. And I think that it's time the sheriff's department and citizens of Laramie County are ready for a change.
Yep.
We need to make things better for both the deputies and for the citizens of the county.
So when did you decide that you wanted to run for this?
Well, originally I thought about running at the last election.
Okay.
But when the current sheriff decided he was going to run, I didn't think I could beat him with his name recognition.
Yeah.
So I elected not to do it. And then in 2018, I decided to retire from the police department, Cheyenne Police Department. And I went home and started training horses and taking care of some stuff at home. And when the current sheriff decided he wasn't going to run this time, I thought this was an opportunity to go in there and make the changes that I think need to be done.
Okay. What are a couple of those?
Well, right now they're way short in personnel. They're over 47 deputies down.
Okay.
And they lost several. My sources tell me they lost 8 out of the jail in the month of January alone. And if you look at the climate survey that's out on Laramie County Human Resources page,
okay,
the numbers, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in numbers. I don't put a lot of stock in any numbers. But the comments are very telling in that climate survey. And what the deputies mainly are talking about is wages and leadership. That's their 2 biggest complaints. The lack of leadership inside the department and the wages. They are roughly $4 an hour less than the Cheyenne Police Department, and they're 2 blocks apart.
Really?
For the same brand new deputy versus a brand new Cheyenne police officer, there's a $4 an hour difference.
Yeah.
And you've got the sheriff's department, you've got junior deputies making more money than senior deputies, and junior sergeants making more money than senior sergeants, and that's going to kill morale. So they're always losing people.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is we need to get it manned back up. We need to fix the wages. All right.
And how do we do that?
How are we going to fix the wages? We need to put in a standardized pay scale. Okay. And I don't think it's going to be that tough to do, because you just go sit down with the county commissioners and point out, look, from the time of testing to the time of turning a deputy loose on the street is 6 months to a year.
Okay.
Okay. We also were investing probably over $100,000 in their training and equipment. Well, if we don't keep them for more than 2 years, we're losing money.
Right.
If we train them and invest this money in them, and they automatically go to Cheyenne Police Department or down the Front Range of Colorado, where they're going to make considerably more money, we're hurting our department. We're losing respect for our agencies, and we're putting our citizens in jeopardy.
But yeah, and just the investment cost of it alone.
Yeah, it's a waste of taxpayer money.
Right.
So we've got to fix that, and the way we need to fix it is we've got to get a comparable starting salary.
Okay.
But not only do we fix the starting salary, we have to raise everybody else up. So let's say you put it in an 8-year pay scale. Okay. So every year they get a pay raise until their 8th year, at which point they're topped out. So anything after their 8th year of employment, anything they get to increase their pay is an increase in promotion, a raise through promotion, or a cost of living increase.
Okay.
Okay. But there's no reason that a junior deputy is making more money than a senior deputy.
Right.
Okay. And the same things with the sergeants and the lieutenants and the captains. Well, the captains are probably just going to be a salaried employee, so this is what you're going to get the entire time you're here.
Okay.
We fixed that. We put standards into our hiring. The sheriff's department in the past has hired deputies that were rejected from the police department. Well, if you're not good enough to work for the police department, why would you be good enough to work for the sheriff's department? You're doing the exact same job.
Right.
Okay. And as a deputy, you're out in the county, there's a bigger chance you're going to be alone, and you better have your stuff together because you don't have the backup.
That makes sense. Being way out there in the middle of nowhere.
Out there. So we need to get the sheriff department manned up, and we fix that by setting in standards. Okay. We've got to be fair in how we treat the deputies, whether it's a disciplinary action or an award. Okay, you've got to have standards for those, and you treat everybody the same, not based upon who I like the best.
Right.
Okay, so we put standards in there. We put standards in there for promotions. Okay, there's a certain set of standards you have to meet to get promoted.
Yeah.
All right. There's a standard you meet to get hired. We put that in there. We put some pride back into the agency, and if we can put pride back into the agency and make those deputies be proud to work there, they're going to be the best recruiting tool we have.
Right.
Okay. And it all comes down to leadership.
I agree.
If the staff will appreciate them and show them that they appreciate them, they're going to be more willing to work for them. Well, then we've got to train them. We've got to get them trained up into the standards, and they need to have continual, consistent training in the Constitution, case law, and the statutes, because it's all changing. Case law is always changing. The Constitution's consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. Case law changes and statutes change. So we have to have continual training in that. And then we have to trust those deputies to go out and do their job. And then we have to support them in doing their job. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Okay. So if they do make a mistake, we still support them. We correct the mistake, but we support them. Okay. Once we get that, we get it manned back up. I want to get deputies back out into the I want to bring back resident deputies. Okay, we need them back out into the county.
Absolutely.
A 30 to 45 minute response time on a hot call, a homicide or domestic violence is way too long. I mean, a lot of times this stuff's over in 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
We've got to be there quicker than an hour.
Yep.
So we get those deputies out into the county, and we leave them out there. All right. And I want them out there making contacts with those residents. They should know who the landowners are.
Right. Yep.
And they should know what vehicles are in those areas. Okay. So what I want them to do is, if they see somebody out mowing their yard or working on a tractor out in the field, stop and visit.
Right.
Okay. Just introduce themselves and just get to know the people. Get to know the
more
vehicles.
small town Cheyenne than it should be out.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, we've got a little over 100,000 people in this county. Why are we pretending we're Chicago or New York?
Yep.
Okay. If deputies or even any law enforcement runs into a gas station, don't be afraid to talk to the clerks. Just pass the time of day with them.
Right.
Okay. Because if we can build that relationship to where they're comfortable with us, we've got a better chance of them wanting to talk to us when something's bad.
Yep.
Okay.
That's small town Wyoming that I grew up in.
Exactly.
You knew who was on duty.
Exactly. And by having that contact, we can then do our true job, which is correcting behavior. Okay. Punishment's job of the courts. Correcting behavior is the job of law enforcement.
I like it.
And if you can go out and make a traffic stop on some snot-nosed 15-year-old,
yep,
and say, you better tell your parents that I made a stop on you, or I will, that's going to have a bigger impression than writing a ticket. Like we were talking earlier. I mean, you had that happen, and that's a bigger impression. I mean, last thing you want is your parents to know that you were stopped by the police.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of what I want to get back to. We need to get back to our traditional Wyoming values and the way we treat people.
Right. And we were talking before we started, while Dominic was setting up his stuff, we were talking just about how those traditional Wyoming values can blend with, we're talking about how kind of new age people want fairness for everybody, and have, a hard time accepting like other people, I guess. But I would say that our original Wyoming values that we're talking about is, like you were saying, we need to have manners.
We need to have manners and morals. I mean, you treat people the way they treat you.
Absolutely.
I mean, you show everybody respect, and you're nice to them until it's time to not be nice, and then you go back to being nice.
You go back to being nice. Yep.
You know, you call people sir and ma'am and show respect.
Yep.
And it's not a sign of weakness. It's common courtesy. It's what we truly grew up with.
Yep.
And we've lost it over the years because of social media. And it's easy to sound tough sitting behind a computer, you know, but when you have to look at them face to face and sit down and have a conversation,
right,
you learn how to read people and communicate.
Yep.
And part of communication is not just talking, it's listening. You've got to listen to each other.
Right. And you don't have to necessarily agree with everything everybody says, but you can be civil about it.
We can have a difference of opinion.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't make either one of us wrong
Yep.
or right.
Yep.
We talk it out because there's merit to both sides.
Absolutely.
So we've lost that ability to talk. You know, we're all closed-minded anymore, and we need to get past that. We need to go back to our traditional values. You know, just common courtesy.
Yep. Now,
we can't legislate morals.
Right.
But, you know, as the sheriff, I can demand my deputies, if I was elected sheriff, I could demand my deputies are polite and professional.
Yep.
You know?
And that's what that's a big thing where we're going to show this video under this Facebook group. Like our number one rule is like, don't be a butthole.
Exactly.
And I think that applies for so much stuff. Like I'm not trying to tell you what you can or cannot say. Just say it in a polite manner.
Correct.
Right.
When I was my patrol squads, when I was a sergeant on the street, I would tell my guys, I'm not going to tell you to be nice, but I want you to be polite and I want you to be professional.
Yep.
You know, because nice gets us complaints. Polite and professional, we get the job done. We get the respect, and we all go home at night.
Yep.
And ultimately, that's what we're wanting to do.
That is the goal. I think a lot of people forget, you know, like you were saying, Dominic, how many people forget that police are humans too, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think, I'm so glad that I live here in Wyoming because we still have that respect for the police, you know?
We do, and we're fortunate because we still have a lot of support for law enforcement.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm kind of making it sound like law enforcement doesn't try to be out there and talking to people. Our call volume is not allowing it to happen.
Right.
And 90% of that problem is we do not have the number of police officers and deputies that we should have.
No, and that's one of the questions that someone had was just like with employment being down across the board, how are you going to make, if elected sheriff, how are you going to make that an appealing position? But I think that, you know, I think that standardizing that stuff is very important. Hell, for my apprenticeship, there was strict standards that you had to get past this to get this pay and get this responsibility. Continued education is very important.
Absolutely.
I think that that's very important for everybody. I made a speech the other day at Cary Junior High. And I was like, look, you'll never know it all.
No.
Like, never. I told these kids, I said, no one's got it all figured out.
No.
Like, if a fire happened right here, I said, you guys would all look for the adult you trust. But every adult would probably look for a more adult in that situation for a split second.
If you find yourself being the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yep. You need to get a new room.
You need to move. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, getting people is going to be a chore. It's going to be work. And I've already been networking. I've talked to some officers from other states that would be willing to come here if I'm elected, that would be willing to come here and go to work as laterals. Yep. And a lot of the deputies that have left, I think I'm pretty confident would come back. All I'd have to do is ask them.
Yep.
And that's big. That is very humbling to me that, you know, you got deputies that left because of a certain reason saying, yeah, if you get elected, I'd be happy to come back. I'd be happy to come work for you.
Yeah, that definitely says something about your leadership.
And,
sure.
Having people that I've just barely met in other states saying, I like what you talk. I like how I like your bio, and I'd gladly come work for you.
Yep.
So, and that's huge. Leadership. And the thing about leadership is you really stop in a law enforcement agency. Leadership transitions from leadership to management after being a sergeant.
Okay.
The farther up the chain you go, you stop being a leader. You truly are becoming a manager.
Right.
And there is a huge difference between leaders and managers.
Huge.
And we need a leader in the sheriff's department. We need somebody that knows how to be a cop, that remembers what it was like to be a cop. And that's where we need to be. We've got to get back to traditional values. We've got to get back to traditional policing. Yep. Now, with that, there's new technology that we also have to embrace. Body cams, computers, all that stuff. We've got to embrace the technology, but it doesn't mean we have to change our interpersonal behaviors to each other.
Who you are at the core.
Exactly.
Right.
This is the tool that I use for my job.
Right.
But this is who I am.
Right. Need to get back to it being a family atmosphere.
We need to bring back the family and the family values in how we treat each other. The traditional Wyoming Western values.
I agree.
We got to get back to that.
I agree.
So
before we wrap it up here,
okay.
just got a couple questions here from our audience. Dominic, what time are we sitting at?
Oh God, man, I had to let that out so bad. 27 minutes and 5 seconds.
Goes fast, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it does. How's everything going so
Everything
far?
sounds good. I've got a little bit of noise coming from there, but I should be able to isolate it pretty decently since the microphone's right there.
Okay.
If you want the video to be a half hour long, it'll all be there. But if we do need to edit, whatever.
No,
whatever you need to do.
it's whatever's easiest for you, man. I appreciate you coming in and helping us out.
It's all easy for me, baby.
There it is.
I've been doing it a long time.
Okay. All right. So are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. Dominic, you good?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Okay. So I know that besides just deputies in the fields and everything, there are a couple other areas of jurisdiction that fall under the sheriff's department. I believe the detention center.
The detention center. And when I say deputies, I'm talking on the road and in the jail.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
I don't distinguish road deputies to detention officers. They're all the same.
Perfect. Do you think, what are a couple changes that you'd make in the detention center if you got elected sheriff?
Well,
because I really enjoy it, because I do believe it all starts with a team.
it does.
It does. It all starts with the team.
It goes back to the standards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Whether we're going to test, it's going to be one test.
Yep.
No matter where you're going.
I agree.
Okay. One test. And then one standard.
Yep.
We need to give the detention deputies some incentive to better themselves. Right now, they're working 12-hour shifts sitting in a pod with really no incentive to better themselves and to try and get out. They just haven't had the opportunity to better themselves. It's not because they don't want to. They're just not given those opportunities. So we need to give them the opportunities to better themselves, whether it's get on a CERT team, go to the road, go to schools, okay? Learn how to do their job to the best of their ability, okay?
Which would really increase morale.
Absolutely, because they are truly the ones that are doing the job.
Yep.
What people seem to forget is any agency can work without the bosses. But the bosses can't do their job without the ground people doing the work.
Yep.
So anyway, we need to fix that. Okay, we've got medical staff on the scene, and we need the medical staff to be able to triage the prisoners a little better.
Absolutely.
But that's the biggest thing, is just make morale better by making their life better.
Absolutely.
Give them incentives.
I really like what you're saying, because something I got written on this whiteboard is like, I got 3 steps that are like big parts of my job, and that's developing like the overall business plan. So what you're talking about with standardizing everything there. It's the systems that we use and put in place. Then you're talking, the standardizing, the training, the pay. That's what you're talking about with that. And then it's the team that helps make this possible. And those are 3 things. Those are my 3 core things that I work on in my business.
Yeah. It's the same at a law enforcement.
Yep.
Jail. You've got to have trust. We've got to build trust into those. They've got to have trust in each other. Yep. They've got to know that this corporal or the sergeant or the captain or the lieutenant or the sheriff himself has got this brand new deputy's back.
That's it.
And as the sheriff, they need to know that I care. Okay, I care about you.
Yep.
I want to make sure you're happy, healthy, and safe. Okay, because the last thing I want to do is explain to your wife or your parents why you got hurt because of something that is a position I put you in,
right, that
was unsafe.
Yep.
So they've got to know that I'm going to have their back. And anybody, if elected, anybody on my staff, all the way from myself to a corporal to the brand newest officer, is going to have that same philosophy. We've got to make it feel like a family.
Yep.
We've got to bring back that family feel and that trust.
I love it. I could not be a cop. I couldn't do that job. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses, and I definitely couldn't do that. But the only way if I could do it, it would have to be knowing that it was a family atmosphere, knowing that I got people that I can count on, knowing that the person right next to me is going to do their best not to let me get hurt as well.
There's law enforcement really is not difficult because it all comes down to that trust, and it comes down to, would you go through a door with that person? Yep. If you know there's a bad guy on that other side, do I trust you enough to go through this door and trust that you have my back and that you will defend my life?
Yep.
That's what we've got to get.
Yep.
That's what we need.
Hell yeah. Thank you, boys.
So,
do you have any final thoughts that you want to tell the public there?
I believe in honest, open communication. I cannot be anybody but myself. I can't sit here and tell you this if I don't truly believe it.
Right.
Okay. This is who I am. It's just how I live my life.
I can see it. You're a cowboy through and through.
I treat people the way I treat my family. Yep. And I expect from my family.
Yep.
So, and I would have the expectations from the sheriff's department deputies to do their job the way I'd want my children to be treated. So, anyway. But I want to thank you for your time and for the opportunity to be here.
I want to thank you for coming in. Absolutely. Is it okay if I drop some contact information for people to get a hold of you? In here, so
absolutely. We have a Facebook page, Boyd Wrede for Sheriff.
Perfect.
We've got a group that's Boyd Wrede for Sheriff. We got a Facebook page, Boyd Wrede for Sheriff 2022. Our email address is boydreedforsheriff2022@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Reach out to me. I'm more than happy to sit down with anybody. I'll meet with people. If you're worried about your other people knowing about it, I'll make sure that nobody knows that we're talking. I'm happy to sit down and have a conversation with anybody who wants to talk.
Perfect.
So
So we'll have that information just in some clickable links in the description below this video for you guys to jump on there. I've really enjoyed my time talking with you,
I
sir.
enjoyed it.
And
I
really
appreciate
it. I wish you all the luck. Thank you for coming in and not making it Republican or Democrat or bashing on the other candidates. You just spoke to us on who you are and why you feel that you'd be the right man for the job.
Absolutely.
And you've gained my respect today, and I really appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Absolutely. So we'll get this in front of a lot of people, and we'll let these other candidates come in. I think that, like you said, people want to change.
They do.
And people are sick of the bullshit that has been going on in front of their faces for a long time. So we're here to give everybody that's watching just, I hope that you felt like you were sitting in the room, like right by Dominic right now, just watching this conversation take place. So any follow-up questions that you guys have for Boyd, go ahead and reach out on the links below. But I appreciate you coming
Thank you.
in. I wish you all the best.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Boyd Wrede, and I'm running for Laramie County Sheriff.